James Bond.
You're James Bond?
Yeah. Yeah, friends of mine went to see the movie yesterday, James Bond.
Alright, that takes care of that. I'm gonna put this up by the coins.
Jim, how you doing, buddy? Okay?
Race car driver autograph.
Yep.
Helio Castroneves.
Oh, yeah.
Stars.
Thing with the stars, yep.
Ari Lyondike.
Okay, ladies, have a good one.
All right, thanks, Wayne.
You're welcome.
Okay, Wayne.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Where did you call? Yeah, I remember Marion.
I got my jacket here.
Yeah. These coins done, or I'll never get it done. Yeah. Lot of stuff, huh? Yeah, more coins in there, and I got more coins in here, more coins at home. They're not gonna fit in this case, Dale. Not gonna fit in this case. Coins are not gonna fit in the case. Place for this. From Vintage Golden Coin.
I didn't think I was going first.
You're gonna go first. Dishing you in.
Well, thanks for everybody for coming and thanks for inviting me. Bruce, I appreciate it.
This is an all-day affair, so there'll be people in and out all day, but we'll get you while you got a good crowd here, so.
Well, I have a store in Dixon City. It's called Vintage Golden Coin. If you haven't figured that out by now, I've been, this is my 10th year of having a retail store. Before that, I had a chain of video stores you might be familiar with, Montage Video and Fox Video. That's my retail experience. And one day, I've been selling about 10 years, but I would say about 18 years ago, an older gent walked into one of my video stores and introduced me to coins. I really wasn't interested in coins at all. I couldn't care less about them. But he just kept coming around and showing me different things, and little by little, I just got the bug for coins, about the history of the coins. And with coins, I'm talking mostly about United States coins. That's my interest and my expertise now. It started with the Morgan dollar, which many of my customers come in with. Many of our fathers and grandfathers might have given us a silver dollar for a birthday or communion or something. And that was my first interest to start a set of those. Today it's very hard to complete a set of Morgan dollars. I do have a full set of Morgan dollars that I don't put on display. I keep them to myself. I guess I'm a little stingy there compared to you, but a lot of other coins are on display, of course. So it was the Morgan silver dollar that first got my interest in coins. And then pennies. Pennies seemed to be the thing that everybody collected. It was easy to fill a book from pocket change or something back from the early 60s. That was me, early 60s up, to be able to find coins from that different times out of pocket change or just going to the bank. And looking at a lot of the product that Bruce has, I consider him a true collector because he's not just going for the most prettiest thing. He's going for whatever he's finding or coming across. He has everything from, you know, large cents, small cents, 3-cent pieces over there, of course, nickels, dimes, quarters, half dollars, and dollars. But from looking at that, I know Bruce from coming in the store, you know, buying things, I just never knew what it was about. And he said not everything is here either. But I consider him a true collector as far as coins, and it seems like with everything else he's doing too, a person that just collects everything that they like to collect, no matter, it might not have value or have value. And I commend them for that, because most people are just after those few things, you know, they're after the money all the time. What can I buy and make, you know, a lot of money on in a short period of time? And that's really hard to do with anything, but that's what most people are after. When people bring things in the store, they bring in a lot of pennies. Pennies, wheat pennies are our biggest thing. That I would say 50 to possibly 500 come in a day. We have one showcase in the store. There's over 80,000 wheat pennies. We just get them from the customers, throw them in there, then we shovel them into bags of 1,000 and then sell them back out to the customers so they could search through them and find whatever little gem they might find in there. We just don't have the time to go through every single penny. Now, is there that 1909 SBDB that's missing out of your collection over there? Probably not, because most of those are collected. By the way, that's about I would say about an $800 penny just in basic condition, and it jumps up to $1,500 really easy. But those pennies that we have there that we sell at the store, might be something there for $1 or $5 or $10 that you're paying 3 to 4 cents for. So they come in for the people that aren't interested in them and go back out to the people that are. And the next thing that we get most of, I would say, that comes in the store is what we call junk silver. Quarters, dimes, half dollars, 1964 and before. If you ever come across those, please don't get rid of them for a dime, a quarter, or half dollar, because even today at cheapo prices of silver, silver's at about $14 an ounce right now. It's trading on, it's very low. That particular dime is worth 10 times its value. The half dollar is worth 10 times its value. So if you have a half dollar that's worth $5, you certainly don't want to give it to the newspaper boy or something like that. So we see a lot of that stuff come in the store too. Most people don't know what it is. They think that it's their grandfather or father left it and he marked on it important, and good thing they don't throw something away. A $10 roll of quarters is worth $100 just for its silver, and there also might be something collectible in there too.
On that note, I tell everybody, if you see my obituary in the paper, come and get my garbage, because my wife's throwing everything away.
Well, he brings up a good point there, because many people come in with estates. Say like something does happen. And what I see are most of these people, they're siblings that moved out of town, working somewhere else. They feel like they're bothered coming in that weekend to clean out the parents' house or whoever. Most of the stuff gets thrown away. It's amazing how much stuff gets thrown away. So all you guys know about that stuff. If you're here today, you know that you probably look through things, but most people are in just such a hurry that they just get rid of things. They'll just put it in a dumpster and they want to get back to their home, and they think it's a hassle to go through these old things, collectibles and things like that. But I don't think any of you people would do that here, because if you're here, you know that there's value in just about anything to someone. So. And basically, I'm here to answer questions, because I think that that's the best way to answer an individual question that you might have on a particular coin maybe, or something you might have. And as always, I always tell people there isn't any question that's foolish or stupid or dumb, because we hear them all the time, the questions, and it's mostly the same thing. How much are pennies worth? Wheat pennies. Wheat pennies are worth about 2 to 3 cents each, unless you have those collectible dates. How much are those quarters, dimes, and halves worth? Depends on the price of silver. Right now, about $10 for every dollar's worth. So if you have 10 dimes from 1964 and before, it's worth $10, not $1. And basically that's it. We also, at the store, another thing which isn't represented here are precious metals, gold and silver, bars, ingots, rounds. That's become a very big thing right now with people who have hopefully some cash on the side. They're dumping, 5 to 10% of their investment portfolio into precious metals, because we're at a bottom right now. So if I could let you in on a little secret, metal is very cheap right now. So if you did have some extra money, it's a great time to get invested in precious metals, gold or silver. We expect. I try to be conservative. It's at $14. I expect it to at least go to $40 to $50 in the next 3 years. Gold, at least $2,000 in the next 2 or 3 years. And I'm very conservative to what most people are saying. So if you're that kind of person, and that goes with everything that you have too, because there's silver, and I see gold over there too. That goes up too, even if it's a collectible coin. So you're better off to have a precious metal, gold, silver, platinum, palladium, than those paper dollar bills if you have them just lying somewhere. I suggest putting some of that into precious metals. And that's basically it. If there's any questions now, or if you want to grab me on the side or something like that, I'll be here for the next few hours to answer anything you might have.
I have some old notes, the silver certificate,
Okay.
and say if the 60s, 70s era, how they were, all the dollar bills were the same.
Mm-hmm.
This one, the back side is different,
Okay.
and it's a little older than that. I was wondering if it has any value.
It could if it's an oddball, if you're saying like a freak. Most people with silver certificates come in with the 1957s in the store. Even like in pristine condition, they're only worth $1.
Oh.
And the red seal, $2, 1963, the $5 red seal, 63, they're just face value. Most of your value comes in before 1934 on paper. Unless you have something odd, if that's what you have, yes. So if you do have something odd, it's going to depend on the condition it was preserved in and how much of a percentage of that back is different.
So it's entirely different on the back. I have some other paper certificates that are foreign currency, World War II, a little before it. Those things.
Unfortunately, again, our fathers and grandfathers brought a lot of this back, and it doesn't have any value. It's collectible, but it doesn't have any value above. And in a lot of cases, those currencies were done away with. They were demonetized. Now they're in the euro and stuff. So you would think, okay, they should be worth something more because of that. They aren't. And again, I'm not saying you might not have something in there, but for the most part, it's just look at it or pass it down. It doesn't have any other value.
Okay. Thank you.
And even in the country, you can't even trade it back to use it for whatever there. Yeah, these here, these were a lot.
Japanese, French, these are things that would have came back from the war probably.
Mhm.
And
And they're neat because look, it's so different. And
Yeah.
like, you know, this is probably from the 40s. I can't really see
yeah,
the date on here.
it's
But,
on
yeah, 44. So you know, World War II.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, and now with France being in the news, who knows? You know, and things could change in a moment with things too. So I always say, don't throw them away, but you just can't really get more for them.
I collect them because
You
you don't get them every day. So
That's right.
it's nice to have something from the war. My father brought a lot of stuff back, so some of the things you see over here, a lot of this came back from World War II, but there's some stuff that didn't, some stuff I've purchased since then. But the one thing that I do want to make sure everybody sees is this, and Paul knows,
I saw that.
Paul knows what this is. This is Hitler's book, Mein Kampf, but this is not just a plain ordinary book. This is in German. It is from 1938. It's also autographed and signed by somebody. I don't know who, I can't read German, but I'm assuming it's a mayor from a city. The book is actually, it's stamped 1938, but the book is 1936. And it's in pretty good condition. It, you know, almost looks like a Bible. It's got the gold leaf on the top, and it came with a slip cover. So that's one of my prized possessions, and that's something that will never be sold. It'll go down into the family and be handed
So what
over.
gives that the extra value though? Like, I'm familiar with the book, but I'm not familiar with why this particular one, because it's a...
Well, because of the condition, number one, it's in really pretty, almost pristine condition. Date-wise, they go back into the early 30s, I believe. When he was in jail, he was writing it. So, but because of the fact that a mayor of a city, this was given to somebody, and the mayor autographed it, so it jumps the value up just a little bit, and it actually has the cover, which is not perfect, but it has the cover to go with it.
Protected it though.
But it did save the book from getting ruined. And, you know, like I said, something that came back from World War II to stay in that kind of shape all these years. I keep this in a safe and I keep it wrapped. And but
So that's something like that, you don't, just like a coin, you don't clean that, you don't attempt to clean that or anything?
It's just like a coin. You don't want to clean your coins. You don't want to clean your books. If you're going to have a book and you have the binding on it that's starting to break, please don't duct tape it, don't scotch tape it, don't do anything with it. Take it to a professional. I do collect books, and I have a lot of 1800s books, and I have a lot of first edition books. And I like to collect first editions because the first edition is always worth more than any other book. But if you got one where it's starting to get in rough shape, the more you handle it, the rougher it's going to get. Every time you open it, you're going to damage it more and more. So if it's a collectible and you're not reading it, you don't want to take it and start flipping pages and showing people the book, because every time you do that, it gets ruined. There are some professional bookbinding people that restore these. And if you ever watch Pawn Stars, you'll see, what's her name, Romney. She comes in and she's the authority on books, and she tells everybody, get it professionally restored. It's valuable. It's more valuable if it's professionally restored rather than if you tried to do something with it. And the more you touch it, the more you play with it, the more you ruin it. So,
Interesting.
you know, it's just like coins. You don't clean your coins. I did that once when I was younger. It's just like stamps. When I had I have a big stamp collection. I couldn't bring it all here, but my father taught me how to put lick the little tabs and put them on the back of the stamp and put them in your book. Before that, I was licking the stamps and sticking them in a book, thinking I was 8 years old or whatever. My father had a stamp collection. I wanted to have one. But it's all in how you preserve them and how you keep them. I have stamps in some of the albums that I have that go back into the 1800s. I have like the number, the first stamp that was ever made, I think maybe 5 or 6 after that I have. I couldn't get the first or second. It's just like coins, like you know, the 28 piece.
Yep.
You know, they're a little bit more money. The Carson City silver dollars, you can still find Carson City silver dollars for $60, $70, $80, $90, $100, but you're not going to find gem mint Carson City silver dollars for anything under $1,000 anyway, even the common ones.
Hard to get.
You know, and it's all in condition. It all comes down to condition. Don't clean your coins. I mean, you can take a soft cloth and maybe take, you know, the top and just wipe the dust, and maybe you'll get some of the loose dirt off them. But you don't want to use a cleanser, and you don't want to rub them. You don't want to scratch them any more than they are, because all your cleansers have some kind of an abrasive in them. And you can tell immediately when you see a coin that's clean. You can see it with your naked eye.
That's right. Very good. So we went into books there. Any other questions, major questions on coins? Or if not, you know, you guys, I'll be walking around here. You can just come up and ask, and maybe you can answer some of my questions about everything else that's here, because there's a lot of interesting things here. This is amazing. I never knew you had this much stuff. You talked about it when you came to the store, but you said it's not even all here. But there's a lot of different interesting areas here that I'm going to explore too. So
All right, thank
appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.
All right, now I'm going to speak a little bit about what we have here, and I'll answer some questions on anything. I got started collecting as a little kid with baseball cards, and I always collected baseball cards because I love baseball. And when I got married and moved out of the house, my baseball cards were in 2 shoe boxes. When I came back to get them, they weren't there. My grandmother gave them away, and I to this day don't know. I know where she said they went, but they weren't there when I went to get them. I tried to buy them back, but I couldn't get them. But I had shoe boxes. There's about 1,400 cards fit in a shoe box. We lay them side by side. And I had a shoe box with nothing but Mickey Mantles, Yogi Berras. Every Yankee was in one shoe box from 1958 to 1967. And right now, if I had what was there, just in that one shoe box, not counting the other one, just in the one shoe box, I could probably buy an island. Because I had a stack of Mickey Mantles that thick of every year from 58 on. And there's not a Mickey Mantle in that year and now that's worth under $500. They're all $1,000, $1,500. And I had them for 58, 59, 60, 60, 61, 2, 3, 4, 5. Plus I would have had Roger Maris's rookie card, which was in there, and probably quite a few other Yankees. The other box was nothing but the LA Dodgers and San Francisco Giants, which were the 2 National League teams, which would have been Don Drysdale, Sandy Koufax, Willie Mays, Willie McCovey, and all the big stars in the National League, and I had them full. So I got started collecting again with baseball cards when my son was 5 years old, I believe. I went into La Rosa's store on Rushbrook Street to buy him a pack of cards. We bought the pack of cards. They had the gum in at the tops. I opened up the pack, smelled the gum, and I said, that still smells like it did when I was a kid. So I gave him the cards. I gave him the cards and the gum. I said, you can eat the gum. I said, it's new, so it was okay. And then I showed him how to determine who the better players were. You can trade, I said, trade the junk cards to your friends to get the players you like. That's what we used to do when we were kids. But we got out the door, I turned around and went back in the door, about 10 more packs. I sent him to bed, and then I sat downstairs opening them. And I got hooked back into collecting baseball cards. As far as some of the other things, the bottles, I was actually, he died a few years ago, Danny Panunzi, Danny Alclea's grandfather. Got me started. We were working on construction and we were digging someplace and an old bottle popped up. And he said he had a cabinet full of them in iron. So he got me looking at it and telling me, oh, it's embossed, it's written on it, it's worth, this bottle's worth $3, $4. And I said, you can get $3 out of the ground? Okay, I'm going to start digging the ground. It's easy. So I started collecting bottles, and at one point I had over 1,000. I had to weed it out a little bit, and I still would like to weed it out a little bit more, and my wife would like to weed it out completely. But I have bottles from the 1800s, from the Prohibition era. These are the Prohibition whiskey bottles, and these are pretty ornate. They have all the writing on them. And they had little paper labels, so these are right around the 30s, just around the Prohibition time. And you'll see some of them are here. I have soda bottles, beer bottles, mason bottles, milk bottles. You see the cream top bottles. These are medicine bottles. I have one that's not here, and I couldn't bring them all. It has Father John's medicine on the side, which is a little bit rarer bottle. You could see the bubbles in these, so you could see the age on them. You could tell they're a little bit older. And how you tell a bottle is by the seams. They were blown in a mold, they're put together. So anything that has a seam that goes all the way to the top was made after 1910. If it goes to this lip here, it was made in the early 1900s, just before 1910. If it's down below that lip, it was made in the 1800s to, well, whenever they started molding bottles. The farther down the seam is, and the more bubbles you see and the more defects you see, the older it is. And that's a good way to tell. They came with mostly all cork stoppers, but you'll see some ceramic stoppers as well with wire bails on them. And this, although it doesn't look like a bottle, it looks like a genie bottle. When I found this, I couldn't find the top, and I don't know how I didn't find it. I've only seen one of these in my life, and it was actually in a movie. I'm a big James Bond collector, and it was in a 1964 James Bond movie, Thunderball. You'll see them fighting in a boat as they're going around, and this thing's in a hole. They're bouncing back and forth like this in the boat. And I went, I have that bottle, and that's the only place I've ever seen it. It's a Stanley thermos is what it is. It's got 1913 on the bottom, Stanley thermos. It's glass lined, and it was in that movie sitting in a holder on the boat. As the boat was wobbling, this thing was going back and forth. It's the only one I've ever seen. I've never seen one any place other than that. I got really into collecting coins same way with my friend Danny. He had a metal detector and he was always collecting. So it wasn't too long. I mean, I haven't been collecting coins probably more than 10 or 15 years. But I've amassed a little bit of a collection. I can't bring it all here. I have albums and albums and albums full of the pennies with Buffalo nickels and the V nickels and the dimes and quarters and everything that Paul was talking about. So I just brought the 1 penny collection here, and I brought some of the silver dollars, but I go to coin auctions and buy. I go down to Paul's shop and buy. I don't advertise and buy, and I don't try to buy off anybody. There's a lot of counterfeit stuff out there you have to look for. There's a lot of people that put mint marks on coins. You got to be wary of that. There was a guy that when I used to sell at a flea market years ago, there was a guy who just got out of jail for forging mint marks. And then after that, he was selling baseball cards, sheets that he got from Tops. They'd go out the back door and he'd take them. I don't know, he got involved in that. He didn't get arrested for that, I guess. But you'll see the mint marks on the very, very rare coins. Sometimes they're forged. And you can talk a little bit about that, about the Washington, or the 32 Washington.
Yeah, the S in this area, believe it or not, sometimes they say the S doesn't mean San Francisco, it means Scranton, because there are so many 1909 SVDB, that real important penny we were talking about, because you could get a 1909 VDB. That's easy to find. And just put that S on it, now it makes the coin worth, hundreds and hundreds of dollars more. And he's talking about the Washington quarters. Same thing with them. The D and the S are real good ones. The regular one that doesn't have a mint mark on it, and if it doesn't have a mint mark on it, means it was made in Philadelphia. But D for Denver and S for San Francisco were the more important ones, so they would put those on there. So last year, the 1909, the penny, 1909 SVDB, I got 3 bad ones. Whenever they come into the store, I consider them counterfeit before I consider them real.
Yeah.
And it's not the people that are coming in with them. They are getting taken by somebody else. There's one lady that was in my dad's collection for 50 years. Well, he got screwed. It's terrible, but it does happen with that stuff. Just like in any business, you have the snakes that want to take advantage of things. The biggest counterfeiting problem we have now is China. China is making coins, replicas of gold coins, silver coins, and they are perfect. It's way beyond me. Like some of the big high top graders, they're getting fooled by the coins. So it's a dangerous area. That's why we always say if you're going to buy an expensive coin, go to a reputable dealer. In anything, I'm sure it's in all these other baseball cards and things like that. A book could be counterfeit, but you have to go through a reputable source.
One of the things we were talking about, I was just going to get into that a little bit. The Pete Rose rookie card is one of the most replicated cards around. Mickey Mantle's signature is the most forged signature you can find. You might get it from a relative that said he got it years ago. He might have got it years ago, but he might have got it from a guy who forged it years ago. There was a show on ESPN that they did. They went into this guy's apartment who was a dealer, and they came to buy a Mickey Mantle. And it was a grader. This guy was a guy who graded things and sent them back. You send him your autograph, he'd send you back for a certain fee, whether it was authentic or not. And it was cheaper if it was authentic than if it wasn't. He'd charge you by whether it was or whether it wasn't. Well, ESPN brought in a bunch of items and said, here's a Mickey Mantle hat autographed. Is this authentic? And he wrote back that it was. He told them, yes, it is. Charged them so much. Well, they did that with a basketball of Michael Jordan. They did it with a hockey puck, and they did it with a football. And he authenticated every one. Oh yeah, they're 100% authentic. They went out. They came back in the door. They brought another guy with them, and they were filming them. And they said, "Are you guaranteeing these are authentic?" And he says, "Yes, I am." He says, "Well, here's the guy that signed them right here." They brought the guy in that forged them. And he said, he says, you're doing this to everybody? You're sending everybody these letters saying there's a certificate of authenticity saying that's real, and it wasn't. So you got to be careful. That record over there, the Beatles record, introducing the Beatles. It's the first Beatles record that was issued in the country. There's two of them: Meet the Beatles and Introducing the Beatles. Meet the Beatles was the first one that was actually released. Introducing the Beatles was the first one that was made in the country, ready for release, and they couldn't get it released before Meet the Beatles because of some kind of contract. It has a brown border around the outside. It's a fake. That's just a simple, easy way. If it has a tiny little brown border around the outside, it's not a real Beatles record. There's so many forgeries in everything. You've got to be careful. Baseball cards, everything you can think of, autographs. I try not to buy any autographs. I get them. I have over 800 autographs, and I think the only one that I actually purchased, no, I think there's two. The Y.A. Tittle autograph I purchased from a very reputable dealer, and the Bo Jackson autograph on the helmet I got from a very good friend of mine who was at a show. He's a dealer and a collector. He has a card shop, and he went to the show and got the autograph himself. So I know that one is authentic. But like the bowling pin over there, that's got every PBA professional bowler that's around. That's autographed. I got that by myself. The NASCAR helmet, it's got all the NASCAR drivers on it. That's autographed. I got that myself. I have everything and anything you can think of, from presidents to residents. So I have Danny L. Clea's autograph, and I have presidents' autographs. So the Indian artifacts that are in the case, they're all artifacts that either I found or purchased from people that I knew was digging them, and they'd find them in fields. One of the things about Indian artifacts is if you dig them up and find them, if you find them on state property, you can't keep them. If you find them in a national forest, don't get caught walking out with them. They can arrest you on the spot. You can't take Indian artifacts from the state out of the state. You can't do that. You have to have permission to dig them. You have to have permission and be on private property, and then you can do it. There's a lot of farms around here in the Susquehanna Valley that there's a lot of Indian artifacts, and people don't think about Indians being in this area. But that bowl that's on top of that case I found in a little stream not too far from where we're standing. So we do know that they were here, we do know that they left things, and they are authentic. The World War II stuff, a lot of that is stuff my father brought back, but some of it, like the bayonets, I purchased at auctions. There's Japanese bayonets. I wish I had somebody that could speak Japanese that could read that for me and tell me what the writing is that's on it. But that one there was sharpened to a razor point. So that one was actually used for more than just a bayonet. And there's one with the scrimshaw writing on it. I want to get that one dated and authenticated. That one's pretty old. The small one is from Belgium. I'm actually missing one There should have been another one here, and it's got to be in the house that I just couldn't find it when I'm taking all this stuff out. But it was from 1870, and it's a French bayonet. I think the other one is a Japanese, and there's one that looks like it's from Germany, Hungary, somewhere in that vicinity, but it's Eastern European. The stuff in the case, my father brought a lot of that stuff home from Germany. It's got the Iron Cross, it's got a few other things that he brought home, SS pins and some other medals that came back from Germany. The flag is of course authentic, came from Germany. The Civil War stuff, those are Civil War bullets. They came from the Antietam battlefield. I tried to get some from Gettysburg, but they will not sell you anything from Gettysburg because you're not allowed to dig anything on Gettysburg. You can't get them from there. So if you have one from Gettysburg, you're pretty lucky, and you either got away with stealing it, digging it up when nobody was looking, stick it in your pocket, or got it from somebody who lived down there and picked them before it became a national park. Because now that it's a national park, you can't get anything off there. Stamps are a dying thing right now. There's still some dealers that deal in them, and you can still find them on eBay, but locally there is nobody locally that you can go to buy stamps. All the guys that were coin dealers at one time were coin, stamp, baseball card dealers, and now they're doing away with baseball cards, and they're doing away with stamps, and they're just dealing with coins. Stamps still have value, but you have to be able to find somebody that you can sell to. Mint stamps are different than canceled or used stamps. Just like coins, a mint coin is worth far more. A mint stamp would be worth far more. A lot of the stamps that are over there are first day covers. First day covers, some of them, if they have a person's name on them, whoever got the stamp, then if you're trying to resell it, you're not going to sell it for very much money. If you have the cachet that goes with it, and if you keep them perfect and mint in an album, you can get more money for them. The records, I have 300 and some albums. I have a cousin that's got thousands, but he worked for Warner Brothers. I have a lot of other things like glasses. You see some glasses on the baseball table with the baseball players. They came from McDonald's. Well, at one time McDonald's gave away the Warner Brothers glasses with Bugs Bunny and Tasmanian Devil and all them. I was at a place up in New York, and they had them on a shelf as collectibles, and they were $25 each. The Tasmanian Devil was $52. And I said, they gave them away for nothing. But evidently a lot of people broke them, used them, threw them away, and now they're becoming collectibles. Well, my cousin that had the records has a case of Tasmanian Devils in his attic. He worked for Warner Brothers and loved Warner Brothers and saved them. So he's got something that he can resell and make some money on. Farther down you got the books. Like I said, I collect first edition books. I collect books that I like. I collect history. I collect Zane Grey books. I collect first editions of a lot of the big names like Somerset Maugham and Rudyard Kipling and some of the names that we remember in school. And there's some new books out. Even I think I don't know if it's James Patterson or somebody like that. But I have a book on books, just like I have a book on baseball cards. And there's a book from 1989 that's valued between $1,000 and $2,000. You don't know. You throw something away because it's a first edition. You should hang on to it. You never know how many were made. A lot of times they have a short printing of a first edition that makes it more valuable. Sometimes it doesn't say first edition in it, but if there's nothing else written in it, doesn't say second printing, then most of the time it is a first edition. I have the old Atari here. I have all the games and the Atari. They're getting harder and harder to find. And it works. I mean, people are looking to buy them now as collectibles, and they're setting up their theaters with the old Ataris and playing the old games like Pong and Pac-Man and Burger Time and all the ones that I played with when I was younger. And they didn't even have them when I was a kid. They had them when my kids were kids, so I was playing them when my kids were growing up. The McDonald's giveaway toys are on the back table. Some of them are getting to be very valuable now because people threw them all away. Of course, my wife threw them all away, but she wasn't smart enough to throw them far enough away. So they're back in a bag, and they were in the attic, so I still have them. There's political pins. Political pins have value, but you got to also watch on political pins because they're making reproductions of the political pins. Most of the time you'll see a little insignia on the back of the political pin, so you can tell that it's a reproduction. But like Paul said, over in China, they're making everything. If they think they can make $1 on it, they're going to make $1 on it. And one of the things with Upper Deck baseball cards, Upper Deck baseball cards made a Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card, which was the most valuable card in the 1989 Upper Deck set, because he was the big name in baseball at that time. And a couple of the officials of Upper Deck decided to make extra Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr. baseball cards on their own and take them out and sell them in the marketplace for a premium, because they were making money on printing them and selling them to people who would sell the boxes. Well, they found out that they could get $10 for a card they were sending out in a pack for a penny or 2 cents. They said, wait a minute, we can get $10. Let's run off a couple hundred more, and we'll go out and sell them at shows. So people from Upper Deck, upper management people in Upper Deck, were going around with cases of cards selling the 89 Upper Deck cards. So they mass-produced the 89 Upper Deck, which brought the price of a Ken Griffey Jr. card down. His card should be a $100 card or better, and it's not, because of the fact that they put more out. The other thing I collect is the Avon cars. Don't ask me why, because none of them are really valuable. I just love the fact that they were cars, and I love cars. So I started getting into the Avon cars, and I think I have every Avon car made. And I have the boxes for most of them. A lot of the things in collecting and collectibles is the box is sometimes worth more money than the collectible itself. A lot of like even the Hess trucks, the kids will get the Hess trucks and play with them. The people will throw the boxes away, and then they don't know what to do, and they go, oh wait, we'll save the Hess truck. Well, they save the truck, but they don't have the box. And a lot of people are looking for boxes. So if you have the old boxes and don't have the trucks, sometimes you get as much for the box as you could for the truck, because people can't get them. I have some trucks over there from 1989. They're $185 just for that truck. The red fire truck is one that's worth a little bit more. Like the newer Hess trucks, they caught on just like everybody else. Everybody's buying them, so let's make more. And every year they make more and more and more. So now their Hess trucks you're buying them, you're paying more. You're paying $25 to $30 for a Hess truck. We used to buy them for $10 and $15. Now you're paying almost $30 for the Hess truck, and then 10 years from then, you go to sell it, and it's still worth $30, or it's worth $25. It's worth $20. Like I can buy Hess trucks now. I go out there and buy them. They're used. You can buy them for $8 and $10. Sometimes you can buy brand new ones for $10 and $15 because they're mass producing them. Again, they're making a lot of the baseball cards. That happened in 1987. They started mass producing cards in 1987. It was one of the best years for baseball cards because it was probably the best class of rookies ever to come around all at one time. But they made a lot of the cards. Like Barry Bonds has set every record in baseball. Sure, there's some questions on the steroids, but for the records that he has set, his baseball card in 1987 should be a $30 to $40 card easily. But because of how many they made, it's an $8 to $10 card. Same thing with some of the other players like Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson was the greatest athlete I've ever seen play anything. But his cards are not worth very much because he's in that era where they started mass producing. 88, it got worse. There's people that I know that bought 88 Donruss baseball cards by the case. The wax boxes were about $14 a piece then. And by the case you can get them a little cheaper. There's guys I know that were buying cases and cases and cases and cases and putting them in basements. Now you can sell a box for $5. You can't get any more than $5 for a wax box of those cards. And those guys paid $14. They already lost 3 times their money. You know, they mass produced them and they thought they were going to be really valuable, but they're not. I have baseball cards back there from the 1930s, 1940s, 1950s, 1960s. I have some really good ones. I have sets back there, complete sets from 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way up. They're valuable. They're still valuable because back when we were kids, the cards came out in series. First series, second series, third series. Well, the short printed the third series every year. They didn't make as many of them because they were starting to make the next year's cards, so they shut the plant down early on the third series and started making the first series of the next year. So there's less and less and less of the third series than there are of the first and second. So when you're getting into sets in the 70s, your third series sets cards are real hard to get. You know, to find them in mint shape is even harder. But your third series cards of the 60s and early 70s, to make a complete set, you're going to spend more for a common card in the high series than you are for a big star in the first and second series. Like you could pay more for a guy you never heard of than you did for Willie Mays in 72, 71, and 70. 1971 cards are black. They're all black. And to get one that's not nicked in any way is rare because of the black coloring. As soon as you touch it to something, it nicks. And you can't do anything about that except preserve them in a sleeve and keep them nice. But 71s are the hardest one to put a gem mint set together because they are because of the color. They nick. As soon as you bump them against something, they turn color. They're real fast. Just a little bit of a bend in it is. And cards are like coins. They're graded. They're graded from good to about good to fair to fine to gem mint to excellent mint to, you know, they send them away to get them graded just like you would send a coin away. And sometimes I have concerns about sending cards away because I sent a card away that I thought was a really nice card. When I got it back, it was offset. And I said it wasn't offset when it went, it was straight. I got an offset card back and graded it as I think a 6.5 or something out of 10. So that was the last time I sent cards away. I said I won't grade anything else, I'll just keep it myself and get what I can get for it. I buy baseball gloves. I buy the Reggie Jackson gloves, the Mickey Mantle gloves, the Stan Musial gloves. I buy the big names, the bats. I have Mickey Mantle bats. I have one bat there it's a Mickey Mantle, and it says Little League, but it doesn't have the Little League insignia, but Little League doesn't have it in their museum. It was made in Cortland, New York, and it was made in Homer, New York. And it was Mickey Mantle in Homer, New York. And it's up there by Cortland. That's why I was thinking about it. But it's something that I wanted because I liked it. There's a Hall of Fame bat there that's 1 of 500. It was I'm trying to think of who it was now. It's a Yankees pitcher. He was inducted in the Hall of Fame. Every year when they're inducted in the Hall of Fame, they sell a bat with the people that were inducted in it on the bat. Mine has an umpire that was inducted, another player, and the Yankee pitcher. The three of them are on the bat. And I got that, actually won that I was on the radio, and they were giving away, opened up a new gas station, and they said the first person that comes in here and tells us they love Quick Joe's, gas station and something else wins this bat. And I went through 3 red lights, did a couple of laps around a block and kept sliding in sideways into the gas station, jumped out, and he goes, "How'd you get here so fast?" "Don't tell anybody," I said, "I went through 2 red lights to get here." And I answered the question and got the bat. So I actually got it for nothing in a contest. But there's only 500 made. Some bats there's 1,000 made. So now they're making them with 2,500. Some are making 5,000. So it's just like everything else. Now they're making more of them because they know they can sell more of them. A lot of the autographs that I got at the Hall of Fame. I got them up there. A lot of them I got mostly every one in person though. The Yogi Berra I didn't get from Yogi Berra in person, but I got it from Yogi Berra's son Larry. I played ball against him, and he was the curator of Yogi's museum. And when I told him that when I was a little boy, I had a Yankees uniform with number 8 in my back, and I got pictures of me with the catcher's mitt and the mask. And I said, I drank Yoo-Hoo because Yogi was part owner of Yoo-Hoo. And he called me over to his car, he opened up the trunk, and he gave me a ball, stuck it in my glove, folded it up, and said, "Don't tell everybody that I gave it," because he said everybody will want one. So he had a box of autographs, his father autographed them. Wow. So I have a Yogi Berra autograph. I met Reggie Jackson down here at the stadium, I got his autograph. I met a Goose Gossage and Willie Randolph and a lot of these guys down at the stadium.
Your son brought something in, he said, to tell you. You brought it in, you put it under that table.
Oh, he brought my lunch.
Here, I thought it was an
He
antique.
brought my lunch. No,
That helmet that's signed by so many of the race drivers, what would that be worth? You're
what
not
is
just
it
not-
worth? Every autograph of any race driver is roughly around $10 minimum for like a no-name race car driver. That one has all the major drivers from maybe like 8-9 years ago. Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch, Matt Kenseth, Rusty Wallace is on there. Robbie Gordon's on there. Can't think of his name now. He's from Australia. He just stopped driving. Marcus Ambrose. He's on there. His autograph was the last autograph before he jumped in his car to win the Watkins Glen race, which was the first NASCAR race he ever won. So that's on there. I have over 800 autographs. I have Jack Dempsey's autograph, the boxer. And you know how I got that is the story that Paul was talking about people, how they throw things away. When I was working for a construction company in Clark Summit, we had the contract for spring cleanup in the Abingtons, all through South Abington Township. And we would take the dump truck and people would just clean out their attics and garages and throw things in the backs. We just throw everything in the back of the dump truck. Well, I explained to the two guys that I was with, you do not throw anything that's paper, you do not throw anything that looks like it could be anything. I have to see it first. That was after I started collecting. And I went through a bunch of postcards, and in the postcard pile was an autographed postcard from Jack Dempsey to my pal, it said. Wow. So I got a Jack Dempsey autograph right now is around $100. So I got it for nothing. I've got a lot of stuff that way, believe it or not. I've got, in fact, I'm going to go get no, I'm not. I think they're in my pocket. No, they're not in my pocket. But this, I got there should be an envelope here. When I was up in Clark Summit on that same day, I went to a house, and that house, everything on it had some name on it that was Eastman. Was the name on the everything that was in that house. And Eastman, I didn't think about it until later, but I associate it now with Eastman Kodak. They were related to the people that owned, so a lot of the stuff that came out of there was film related. And I got these pictures, which I have to find somebody that can enhance them. But this is the Spirit of St. Louis airplane. And when I got them, you could read the Spirit of St. Louis on the side of it. And I just put them back in the envelope, and I stuck them someplace, and I forgot I even had them, and I just started came across them.
Even touch it, I don't know.
So these are something I'm going to try to get enhanced, but this is something that somebody was throwing away, and these are originals. Original photos are, they're reproduced and copied. We have Bob was just talking to me about that a little bit earlier. Like, I have a lot of pictures that I'd like to sell, but I don't know if I want to sell them because they're my pictures, because then some other people can mass produce them. But once I sell them, if I put my name on them, then they can't. But if I just sell them, they can reproduce them, and then they can sell them. So you got to be careful on and stuff like that. NASCAR collectibles, I just fell in love with cars, so I started collecting, and I'm buying and buying and buying. These tires, one is Rusty Wallace's tire, one is Dale Earnhardt's tire. They came from Watkins Glen. I've got programs from every race I went to, every game I went to. I have the ticket stubs. I couldn't display all this stuff. They're still in tubs underneath, but I have a program from every football game I went to, every college game, every baseball game.
Why do you have all this stuff in your house? Like, do you have any room to live, or are you like one of those hoarders? You got to make a path?
No, it's actually in a 2-room. It used to be a garage, but I have a lot of the better stuff is in safety deposit boxes at the bank, the small stuff. But like the collectible stuff, I have on shelves. I have bookcases with all the books in them, and I have them with shelves on top of the shelves. I have them hanging on the wall. I have a double door closet, and I have all the baseball stuff is in there except for the valuable ones. Although they're all valuable to me, but a lot of the stuff I try to display what I can, but I can't. I really don't have a small room. My wife hates antiques. My wife hates collectibles. So this is all in a room that I live in by myself. When she, like, we live together, but this is the room where I watch TV and where I sit and where I just go down. I'll open a book and read it, or I'll grab a box of cards and I'll go through them, and the memories will come back of when you're a kid. And you know, like I can still remember putting that card on my bicycle spokes, and I can still remember flipping that card against the steps, and I can still remember trading that card for 3 other cards, and you know, things like that. But you know, the Dearborn glass, that's all came from my family. That my grandfather worked at Dearborn Glass, so that all came. And I just found out something yesterday I didn't know about Dearborn Glass, and I'm glad that the guy came over here to talk to me about it. But Dearborn Glass was manufactured under the name Rico, and I didn't know that. Because I've always been trying to find values on the Dearborn Glass, and nobody could ever tell me anything about it. They never heard of Dearborn Glass. But Dearborn Glass was manufactured and they were actually boxed and sold under the name Rico, R-I-C-C-O. And never knew that. I've lived in town my whole life, never heard that, never knew it. Now I know, now I can search and maybe find if the stuff is valuable. I was also told all that gold that's in them is actual gold that was melted down and into the glass, and I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is, I might start melting down the glass. I'll take it down to Paul and have him make me some coins.
Yeah.
But if you have any questions on anything, if you know.
What are, Sunoco used to have the trucks, and they don't have them anymore. What's the value on them?
Sunoco, there's a couple up there. There's one on the table. They're worth less than the Hess trucks because they did the same thing. They mass produced them. A lot of people didn't collect them because they only wanted the Hess because the Hess was supposed to be a collectible truck. Right. And Sunoco wasn't a collectible truck. It's just like, you know, a lot of the other things I've got. I've got things from Sunoco and BP. BP has trucks out there. I've got a couple of them. Texaco has trucks. My grandson's playing with all them now. So a lot of these Hess trucks that are here, I'm going to sell. I have doubles of almost every one. I have triples of almost every one. I will sell some of them. And if anybody's interested in anything like that, see me or write your name on the paper. I think my wife's going to make me sell everything, so that'll be the first thing to go. But my grandson, I've given him everything that, you know, I've given him my grandfather's pocket watch, the silver coin watch, the family Bible, which I wanted to bring here. It's about that thick with the very ornate drawing on the front, with the pictures inside, with the names of all the family. That's going to the family. All the World War II stuff will go to the family. The kids don't want anything, so like I said, if I die before I sell it, come take my garbage because my wife's going to throw it all. It'll all be gone. Wagon wheel was one thing I've been looking for a long time. I couldn't find one. Nobody would sell them. Every time I found one, it was rotted and junk. I picked up this wagon wheel by accident just about a month ago. I was knocking on doors to notify people on my job that we were going to do an implosion of the wires, the power line wires that we were putting together, and let them know that there was going to be a loud noise. And I was asking this one lady who had wagon wheels all around her house, and she wouldn't sell any. She said, "Oh, I used to get them for $6 and $7 years and years ago. Now you can't find one for $50 any place, and every time you go to an auction, there's 20 people bidding on them." Well, I left that house and I was down the right away, and a guy pulled in, wanted to see if we were going to be in there because he had to get lumber off it. And we got talking a little bit, and I mentioned about the wagon wheel. He said, "I got one in my garage." He said, "Do you want it?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well," he says, "I don't know how good it is," but he pulled it out and he says, I said, "Yeah, what do you want for it?" He says, $20. I says, "Here, $20. So I got a wagon wheel for $20. It's an authentic 1800s wooden wagon wheel with the steel rail around it. It still has the grease inside it. It's got the square nuts on it, and the barrels are from the turn of the century. They're the old wooden nail barrels. I just like them because they're rustic looking and there's something different. The big wheels, the steel wheels, are from the mines here locally. from the Gravity Railroad, and they were from Archibald. I got them in the Archibald mine. One of the interesting things is this. I was working on a project, and I had to go to the bathroom, went down through the woods and peeing behind a tree, and I seen some glass on the ground, so I kicked it, and then I kicked it and found some more, and I found a little piece of pottery. So I picked it up, and it had a symbol on it, just like this. I said, oh, that's interesting. So I stopped after work, I went back there, and I started kicking around. I found another piece, and another piece, and another piece. So I knocked on the door of the guy that owned the property and asked him if I could go back and dig there. And he said, yeah. So I go back digging, and I found a pile of bottles. I seen he had some bottles in his house, so I offered to gave him a couple of them. I said if I could take some others.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, so take them. So I stopped every day, and I'd give him a couple bottles. And I would dig, and I found all the pieces, and I actually put one of these together. I have 4 of them. I actually put 4 bottles together. There's one piece missing out of one out of another. One is perfect. I got the handle and everything. I glued them all back together, and then I researched them. They were made between 1833 and 1864 in Germany, and they were used for gin and mineral water. And they, would pour them. I never seen one. And then I went to get my hair cut, and it was an antique store right across. Guy was selling stuff out in that thing, and I walked in, and here's one sitting on the thing, and it said $25 on it, and I went, "What? Will you take 15? Yep, $15. So I got one that's complete. I never seen one before that. All of a sudden, there it is.
German.
And it's just. I love to collect. I just love bottles. I like history. I got all of them. These are some of the older bottles. They're green. Real dark. They actually almost call it black glass. These are from the early 1800s. These are made with wine in them. Some of them had, sometimes you'll find maybe vinegar in them. I have bottles that still have the original cod liver oil. That's Gordon's cod liver oil. I have another bottle that's in one of the boxes that I wasn't allowed to bring here because I didn't have enough room. And I believe it's an acid bottle. It's a glass bottle with a glass stopper that's hermetically sealed, and I can't open it, and I don't want to open it. I found it here in Jermyn when they were tearing down the building where the convenience store was. When I was tearing that down, I went in there. Of course, I don't let anybody tear a building down unless I can get in it. So I get in it, and I found a bunch of bottles in there, and that was one of them. I was tearing a barn down in Factoryville, and my boss wants work done. He doesn't want anybody searching for stuff, and he knew I was a guy that liked to collect. So he said, I don't care what you do, but I want that barn down fast, and I don't want nothing taken out of it. As soon as he left, I went searching through the barn, and I found this javelin, and everything that I found in that barn was from the 1800s. Magazines, farm journals, 1898, 1889, 1880, trunks, the trunks with the latches. I started putting stuff on the side. The guy says, the owner don't want nothing. They'll leave it, just bury it. And I said, I can't. That's history. That's history. You can't bury that. This came out of there. It had a crack in it. They probably got it with part of the bucket when I was tearing stuff, but I didn't see it when I went searching. So it's got a little crack, which I will glue it and seal it. But this is from turn of the century, Factoryville High School probably, or Fleetville High School, more than likely. But it's a wooden javelin. I never seen another one, so I wanted one.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have a Phillips screw in it, so I know it's not made after 1923.
There you go.
And I learned that on Pawn Stars too. The guy came in with an antique bank, and the guy said it was very old, a rare antique, collectible, and Rick says to him, he says, well, it's a nice reproduction. And the guy says, what do you mean it's a reproduction? He says, well, they didn't make Phillips screws until 1923. So he said, I know it was made after that. So that tells you a little bit about different things. And there's all kinds of bottles. There's a lady here in Jermyn who sent her kids to college with the bottles that she found in the dump up here in Jermyn. Every day she'd take the kids would go to school, and she'd take the wagon and go up in the woods with a little digger and dig bottles. And she found 2 or 3 Tippecanoe bitters bottles, and they were worth quite a bit of money back then. I think you can still see them in books for a couple $100 to $1,000, depending on the condition of them. But they're a rare bottle in the area. found 3 or 4 of them up there, but she'd find everything she found, she would sell, and that's how she helped pay for sending kids to college. There's fossils here that I found in the Archibald Mountain up here. The milk cans, I just thought looked nice decorated outside the house, so I bought them. I got one with the steel handles with boarding on it, and the other one has this welded type handle on it that's a little newer than that one. Probably the most expensive collectible I have here is probably Mr. Peanut. I have no idea what he's worth, but I got that from a guy who worked with me at Wegmans, who said that he worked for them. Told me he was a vice president, but after I got it, I seemed to think he was the guy that wore the Mr. Peanut suit. But he gave it to me to wear at the races because I said, Mr. Peanut sponsors race cars. Maybe I can get in the garage for free if I wear that. So I wore it around up at Watkins Glen for years when we were younger. And the kids played with it. And I imagine it's pretty valuable because that is an original Mr. Peanut. Baseball card wise, I have a Christy Mathewson and a Jim Thorpe in the case from 1913. I have a Mickey Mantle that's valued at $1,800. I have sets that are worth $2,500, $3,000. I love collecting. I don't collect for the money. I don't sell the cards. I had a shop for a while, but I would never sell anything that was good. If you wanted to buy something I had that I liked, unless you're going to pay me a lot more than what it was worth, I wouldn't sell it to you. And I've been that way my whole life. I love collecting.
That's for
Breaker, where'd you get that?
That Walter brought. That's actually a picture that Mr. Tomaine was just talking to me about. He seems to believe that is the picture that his mother took of the flood, and that a certain person in town got a copy of it and started making reproductions of it. And I don't know where Walter got it, so we'll have to find out. But
I think Floyd Sully found it over his building.
okay, all right. That's a picture from the 1942 flood. And that's the building that I remember as kids. Part of it, not all of it was there. A lot of it was gone already when I was a kid. But there's so many things in this town history-wise that we don't even think about. Like the Windsor, I was just talking to Windsor. He thought his building was built in 1892. I said it was built in 1866. It was the Farmer's Hotel before it was the Windsor. And I said it was 3 floors, and the bottom windows used to look out on the road. Now the bottom windows are buried below the road because they raised the road up. But he didn't even know that. He owns the building. But there's some history here. I mean, this Jermyn was first settled with probably a log cabin in the 1830s or 20s or somewhere around there when they were mining coal up in Carbondale. This was called 4 Mile Point, and people used to travel from Blakely to Carbondale. It was halfway, and there's stories in books, history books, about people who came here, lived here, and as early, I mean, it was called Rushdale as early as the 1840s. We have newspaper articles that talk about that, but some of the buildings in town are actually built in the 1860s. They're still standing. So, they're not on the National Registry, because if you put it on the National Registry, then you can't do anything to it. You got to keep it, just like it is. You want to make improvements. You can't put vinyl siding on an 1860s building, which is a good thing. But a lot of people won't register their buildings because of that. Has anybody got questions on collectibles of any kind and how to collect? Well, I mean,
do you have a Nayog brick?
Yes, I do.
Tell us about the village of Nayog.
I'm not a big historian as far as the village of Nayog, but I can tell you that Nayog was not just a park. Nayog was a little community. It was part of the Scranton area, and they made their own bricks. Some of these bricks, like this is a brick paver from Jermyn streets, when Jermyn had brick streets. That's another one from Scranton, and one there at Edges, and I have another one at the house. But I just like something that's different, that's unique, that has a name on it that you don't see around. I really couldn't answer a lot of questions on Nayog, but I do know it was a community, not just a park.
The location was up near the Holiday Inn off Drinker Street by the old Gertrude Hawkes little community. Switching area for the trains.
Yeah, see, this guy knows more about history than I'll ever know. because I don't spend enough time, I don't have enough time to spend on researching the history that I would like to. I could say that I'm a pretty good knowledgeable guy on almost every subject of everything that's in here. I'm not an expert on anything. I know a little bit about coins, enough to get by. I know what I want to buy, and I know how to value it. I know what I want to buy. Same thing with stamps, same thing with baseball cards, same thing with records. I know more about baseball stuff like that than I do anything else. I can probably answer more questions on that. All the Boy Scout stuff that is all mine from when I was a Boy Scout, but some of that stuff is still valuable. A lot of people collect Boy Scout patches, Boy Scout books, Boy Scout shirts and knapsacks and just about anything. You know, it's just like everything else. Like I said, the McDonald's stuff is collectible now. You know, things you threw away that you forget about. Well, you threw it away, so did everybody else. So there's not very many of it left. So a lot of people are now coming out and saying, "Oh, I wish I had one of them." And now I'll pay you $20 for something you got in a Happy Meal. You know, it's just amazing. But you know, that's the way it is. I mean, I remember playing with little plastic cars as a kid. And I remember that's how I learned what all the cars were, Citroens and Renaults. And you know, I didn't, like, you never see one in Jermyn, but I had a little car set and they were plastic. Well, now you can't find those plastic car sets anywhere. I used to remember running around on the old braided carpets in the house and making roads out of them and playing with those cars. And you can't find them anymore. They were one of the first plastic molded cars that were made. Tootsie Toy cars and some of the Buddy L's and all of that stuff, they're harder and harder to find, yet my kids were playing with them. A lot of people threw them away.
I bet too.
Yeah?
The Duke has a Jermyn, and it's Bobo Duke, and Koi, and other stuff.
Yeah?
Too.
The Dukes?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Duke has it.
Dukes
I
has
had
it.
DVDs. Too.
Yeah, stuff like that is collectible. Anything from a TV show is collectible. You know,
Speaking of antiques, Charlie Battenberg as well.
well, there's an antique. But if you have any questions, anything on collecting anything, just let me know. I'll be here. Well, I mean, you want to ask me about anything, where I got anything, where I found anything. I was supposed to bring all my geodes over because that was in part of our ad. And I brought the fossils and I brought some of the rocks that I found, and the geodes were sitting there alongside the house and they never grabbed them. But a geode, if you don't know what a geode is a rock that has crystal or a mineral or a gem or something inside it. And most of the time you can't find them around here. You got to find them out west. All the valuable ones are out west. But I was digging construction. I was digging a cellar in shale, and all of a sudden a round rock. It's all layered shale, flat, and all of a sudden a round rock rolled out. What the heck is that? It looked like a football. And I just pushed it off the side with the machine, and I was digging, and all of a sudden another one rolled out. And I went, wait a minute. So I went and I hit it with the bucket and broke it open, and it was filled with crystal. And it's real fine, crystal clear crystal inside the rock. And you know, that's a local geode. So I've got, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10, and I started giving them away because I got so many of them. I had no place to put them. But I had a couple of them at the house. I wanted to bring them over because the crystal's still in them. But they got a shell around the outside of them that's really thin and brittle. And if you leave it sit outside now where it's exposed, that shell breaks away right away. It breaks up into tiny little pieces. So, you know, I got little pieces of shale rock laying all over the place that I got to throw away all the time because it keeps popping off the geodes. But they're something that a lot of these fossils were found in Archibald, going up by where the old breaker used to be in Archibald, going up on that hill. When I was doing work for when they were putting one of those newer buildings up, I found them. A lot of people ask me about this one, and I have no clue on what it is. It looks like an animal of some kind. It's got scales. It almost looks like an alligator that has the back knobs on it, but I can't tell what it is. It's not a tree because I've never seen a tree with little nubs all over it.
He knows what it is.
But
Alligator and crocodile.
Crocodile?
Yeah.
It could be.
I mean, all those big paws and
Yeah, that's what it could be. Could be a crocodile. But they were found in Archibald, mostly all the fossils, like some of the rocks. Some of them I just collected because they're just unique. It's just the sandstone and the way the rock was formed. I've got these laying all around the outside of the house because I just liked them. My son's a science guy and a geologist, and some of the tools are from mining tools. And there's a lot of ferns here on these fossils. These are all got ferns on them. And that's basically, I can talk for days on this stuff. But go out and enjoy looking at anything. If anybody wants to buy anything that's here that's not for sale on the back table, write your name down on a piece of paper, and if I ever decide to sell anything, I'll let you know. But, you know, anybody have any questions, anything? No?
Very good.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Enjoy yourself. We will be here all day.
On the railroad ties.